A little backstory. My family and I had just moved to a new state. My husband and I were still job hunting, waiting for our house to be built, and just overall get settled in. My sister, who I have never been close to, and heck, had only recently began to speak to again, because my dad asked me to give her another chance. She is the epitome of a Karen, so let's call her Kay. Kay has always made everything about her, and a couple basic examples are the weekend I graduated from boot camp, she made about her, and when I earned my doctorate and was asked to be the speaker at the graduation, she invited herself and tried making the event all about her too. This is how life was with Kay. Everything was about her. If things didn't go her way, it was someone else's fault. Always. Anyways, when my husband and I decided to move across country, I was happy to be far away from Kay. Now, I was in the car with my husband and kids, just having gone to see our house had yet another hiccup and was behind schedule again, and my phone rang. It was Kay. Kay. Hey, OP. Me. Hi, Kay. Kay. I am dating this guy. Let's call him Doug, and he wants to open a business, and I told him you would help him get it started. I do business consulting, where I help start, improve, and grow businesses. Me. Kay. I don't have a lot of time to do that because it is a lot of work. Kay. Oh, come on, you can do it. Me. Kay, you haven't even asked how we are doing down here. I'm still job hunting, and our house still isn't ready. Kay, if you're not working, then you have plenty of time to do this. Me. If I were to do this, I would charge $1,000 for the work. Kay, I told Doug you would do it for free. Me. Why would you tell him that? Kay, because you are my sister. Me. Yes, and he is just dating you. Side note. My sister has flavors of the month. The fact that she is dating someone doesn't mean much. Kay. That's rude. Me. I'm sorry, but I'm just not doing work for free right now. Kay. Then will you write out step-by-step directions for what I need to do to help him? Me. No, that would take more time than just doing it myself. Kay. You are so unbelievable and selfish. Me. I hung up. Kay continued to try and text me about how terrible of a person I am. I blocked her and decided that was the end of her last chance. Sorry, Dad. Entitled stories are pretty fun to hear about, but when it's from a family member, I just feel so bad. You had to live with that nightmare for 18 years. Definitely someone you should exclude from future you. Good choice. I could understand if she asked for reduced rate, but free? She's basically assuming that if you're unemployed, it means you are willing to do charity work, since you must be bored witless sitting doing nothing. She clearly underestimates just how much time it takes to move house and job hunt. Job hunting is more than just the interview. There's so much research into companies and prep. If this was her only significant blooper, I'd give her another chance. People don't always think, myself included. But I support blocking her after a history of demanding from you, being jealous of you, and just unpleasant to associate with. My wife has a younger half-sister from her mother's second marriage, but from what I'm told, the half-sister's father was very emotionally and physically to my wife and didn't stick around more than 10 years before flying the coop for reasons I don't know. And because my wife has a different father, she also had different grandparents. My wife's father is a very nice man, and we get along quite well. He divorced my wife's mother early on in their marriage because she's completely toxic. Because of having different parents, there's a 7-year age gap between my wife and her half-sister. Said half-sister ended up being pretty much the baby of the family, and they paid little attention to my wife once sister-in-law was born. So my wife left to live with her father full-time at some point in her teens, and her mother made a huge stink about it because without her, she no longer got child support money. The woman has also been nothing but crass and snide to me since I met her. I think mainly because I'm not rich, since she bluntly said my wife could do better. I make a decent yearly salary, so I cover my expenses just fine. Have my own house, and now a wonderful family. Sister-in-law, as I said in the first post, was the golden child. She was brought up pretty much all the stereotypical ways that you can imagine. Never held accountable, never made her pay her own way on anything. Got into all kinds of trouble because she was spoiled rotten. You can think of her as almost having been an embodiment of Veruca Salt, minus the rich enabling dad. And when she first met me, there was quite an awkward and nasty period before she met her baby daddy. Around the time my wife's sister turned 18, she came visiting us more often, and also started asking to spend the night on weekends. I left that decision up to my wife, and she allowed it, because she'd hoped it'd help her and her sister become closer as siblings. But over time, I noticed sister-in-law was hanging around me more, and she was dressing in skimpier clothes and complimenting me a lot. She loved to pinch my arms and said I was like a Ken doll with muscles. Then, one day, she actually tried to put her hand on my crotch. That was the last straw, and I told her to leave. She said I didn't know what I was missing before my wife laid into her and they had a huge fight. Sister-in-law said my wife didn't deserve a man like me before storming out. I guess sister-in-law found me attractive and thought she could take me away from my wife. Or perhaps she just wanted to bait me. I don't know, but I do know that I'd never let something like that happen. I love my wife dearly. She's a positively radiant woman who knows how to make me smile every day. I could never be unfaithful to her. But sister-in-law didn't give up. She got her cousin in on things and continued to harass us. Sister-in-law heavily flirted with me on multiple occasions whenever we visited mother-in-law over the next couple of years. She even started getting her cousin involved, and together, they actually ganged up on me at a family Halloween party once. They were both dressed in skimpy animal ear cosplay outfits and actually proposed we go upstairs and have a threesome together. I not only declined, but said they both needed to find some nice single guys their own age. Then immediately told my wife what happened. She laid into them in front of everyone at the event. But mother-in-law sided with her golden child and got several other relatives to have her back by claiming I was lying to make trouble. So we just left to avoid more drama. Around the time sister-in-law's 21st birthday came and went, mother-in-law called us, furious that we missed the birthday and didn't even send a gift. And apparently, sister-in-law was crying over it. I said I was not comfortable around sister-in-law because she attempted to seduce me multiple times. And my wife said that it was not my choice but hers whether or not to send a gift. And she didn't want to because of what sister-in-law did. And mother-in-law never even so much as scolded her for it. Mother-in-law called it young hormones and said family shouldn't be so cruel to each other. There was another big fight between mother-in-law and my wife, and we went low contact with the bulk of her family for a while. Then, 2 years ago, my wife's grandmother died. She left most of what she had to her son, my father-in-law. But among the things my wife got was all her jewelry. It was all vintage antique jewelry that had been passed down to only women in the family for years. And we had the collection appraised and was valued as a whole at several $100,000 because the jewelry was not only vintage, but some of it was around 200 years old. We decided it was best to keep the jewelry locked away in the grandmother's jewelry box, which in itself is also a valuable handmade antique. We figured that was it, but all was not well with mother-in-law and sister-in-law. They both had showed up at the reading of my wife's grandmother's will, and mother-in-law was appalled she got nothing. Even more so after finding out my wife got the jewelry. My wife's grandmother had no relationship with sister-in-law at all, and barely one with mother-in-law. So sister-in-law wasn't even mentioned in the will. Mother-in-law threatened to take us to court and contest the will, but never did. Instead, she tried getting nicer to us. And my wife decided to give them one last chance and allowed them into our home again. But as soon as our backs were turned, they tried to make off with the jewelry box and all its contents. I'd gone out to pick up some pre-ordered food for dinner, and my wife was distracted by mother-in-law. Sister-in-law had pretended to use the bathroom and raided my wife's vanity. But I caught sister-in-law outside by sheer chance when I pulled in the driveway, because I wasn't gone as long as they'd hoped. As soon as my headlights flashed her, she dropped the box on the ground before jumping in mother-in-law's car and locking herself in it. Wife and mother-in-law came running when they heard me cursing up a storm. Wife saw the smashed jewelry box and freaked out. Mother-in-law realized she and sister-in-law were caught and had a huge fit over how she believed my wife doesn't deserve the jewelry. I got between them, and mother-in-law hit me a few times and even drew some blood with her sharp nails. But she drove off before we could even get another word in once my wife said she was calling the police. We left the evidence untouched on the ground and called the police. Mother-in-law and sister-in-law were arrested, but basically got a slap on the wrist with only community service and a fine. The jewelry box was badly damaged. It had a long crack that started up one corner and went all the way to the top, and one of the brass hinges broke. I took it to someone who restores old stuff, and it costed hundreds of dollars to restore it. I went to see mother-in-law and said she and sister-in-law were paying for the repairs to the box, or we'd be taking them both to court over it. Mother-in-law told me that wasn't happening, until I brought up the fact we still have documented police evidence sister-in-law tried to steal the box. And I could sue mother-in-law for the assault she did to me. She wrote me out a check to cover the damages right away and told me to leave. I said that the check better not bounce or have a stop payment put on it, or I'd have zero problem taking her and sister-in-law to court. The check thankfully cleared without issue. We got the jewelry box back looking even better than it did before, but we decided the jewelry wasn't safe in our home anymore and had it put in a security safety deposit box, where it has remained to this day. The incident was also what made us decide our home needed cameras, and we've since installed some. Sister-in-law also copied the baby name my wife and I chose, which was also the name of my grandfather. My wife's other relatives had sided with sister-in-law and put us through the ringer, especially mother-in-law and sister-in-law's cousin. Mother-in-law called and texted us repeatedly from a variety of different numbers, demanding we change our son's name, both before and after he was born. We never once even humored her, and the cousin harassed us online multiple times. I ended up pointing out the time sister-in-law and her cousin had cornered and tried to proposition me. And then the cousin blocked me on Facebook when more people started questioning us both about it, since mother-in-law had kept that situation on heavy damage control back then. Several false rumors were spread about us, and my wife's family ended up divided, and are still divided now because of this. But mother-in-law, sister-in-law, sister-in-law's cousin, and a few other family members close to them are fully on their side. They believed that it didn't matter where sister-in-law got her baby's name. Said name was hers now, and we needed to let it go. I fired back that there was nothing to let go. Sister-in-law copied the name we had, and we still used it because it was my grandfather's name. We weren't asking sister-in-law to change her kid's name. We just weren't going to change our son's name because she copied it. And since we weren't going to associate with them anymore, the two kids would be complete strangers to each other anyway. The false rumors spread about me and my wife were pretty bad. For me personally, sister-in-law tried to claim I was secretly only into younger women, and I'd leave my wife as soon as she hit 40. And she also tried to say that my son isn't really mine, and claimed my wife had an affair because I wasn't getting her pregnant. I never asked her to do it because I never believed them, but my wife got a DNA test just to prove I am my son's father to them. After that, the rumor mill died down and eventually stopped. After the mess where sister-in-law and her baby daddy nearly broke up and she changed her child's name, we were paid a visit by the cousin. She demanded we pay the money owed to sister-in-law for the name change, and when we refused, she screamed at us that we ruined sister-in-law's relationship, and now her child's new name will always be a reminder of what we did. I simply told her to leave, as we didn't start this mess, and we didn't even try to end it. We just wanted no part of it. Sister-in-law's cousin flipped me the bird with both hands and said she wished she could do it with her toes too, then left. Before she got in her car, I said if she ever tried to come back, I'd call the police and file for a restraining order. And that's pretty much it, as we were and still are completely no contact with mother-in-law and sister-in-law, and the cousin too. That's one crazy family. They need to get their own lives instead of obsessing about yours. OP's life is much better than theirs. They know they will never be as happy as he and his wife are, so they resort to trying to make him as unhappy as they are. And since they are raging narcissists, they honestly believe all their unhappiness is his fault. I, 19 male, live in a different state than the rest of my family. I recently got engaged to girlfriend of 5 months, 20 female. I was really looking forward to announcing this to my family. However, shortly after, I found out that my 14-year-old stepsister had passed away suddenly. Because of this, I didn't feel right to announce our engagement. I wanted to give my family the space to grieve, but I also wanted to announce my engagement. A few weeks later, me and my girlfriend fly to California for the funeral. My entire family was there, which is unusual, considering we all live in different states and countries. It was basically a family reunion, and had this been for any other circumstance, this would have been the perfect time to announce our engagement. But it just didn't feel right because everyone was so down. After a very depressing service, my family held a reception. The mood seemed to have lifted quite a bit. Everyone was laughing and reminiscing. Her cheer coach was even telling everyone about her upcoming trip to Morocco. I figured since everyone seemed to be happy, it was as good a time as ever to announce the good news. So I called a toast and announced our engagement. I was expecting cheers and congratulations, but instead, the whole room went silent. A few people said an awkward congratulations, and then everyone went back to silently eating their food. It was awkward. A few minutes later, my stepsister's older half-sister's boyfriend asked to speak to me outside. We went outside, where I was confronted by my stepsister's older half, who was crying hysterically and told me that I always make everything about myself, and asked me why I couldn't just let this one day be about someone else. Her and her boyfriend then demanded that me and my girlfriend leave and not come back. I asked my mom and stepdad, deceased sister's dad, if I should leave, and they coldly told me to go. I have now received multiple text messages from friends and family chastising me for making a funeral all about me, and several saying they won't be coming to my wedding. I'm at a loss. I don't think I made the whole funeral about me. Am I the a-hole? Yes, the a-hole. Holy crap, why would you think that would ever be a good idea? Yes, the a-hole. I could see someone thinking this might be a good idea for half a second, But it's definitely not. And the fact that your family immediately said that you always make things about you leads me to believe that this has probably been a reoccurring issue. Yes, the a-hole. If people are laughing at a funeral, they are reminiscing about their deceased loved one. Funerals are for remembrance and embracing all the emotions of mourning a person. This is not the time to announce an engagement.